The trucking industry is short somewhere between 60,000 and 80,000 drivers right now. That is not a rumor. That is not a projection. That is the hole in the workforce that exists today. And last week, the Florida legislature sent Governor Ron DeSantis a bill that would have helped fill it. Not a perfect solution, not a silver bullet, but a real, concrete step. Every single member of both the House and the Senate voted for it. Not one no vote. And DeSantis killed it anyway. This is OTR Pulse. I'm going to tell you exactly what that bill said, why the governor pulled the trigger on the veto, and what it means for the drivers watching this right now. The driver shortage is not a new story for anyone in this cab. You have lived it. Shippers have lived it. Carriers have been screaming about it for years. The shortage drives up freight rates when capacity is tight, but it also means more pressure on the drivers who are out there doing the work, because there are simply not enough of you to move what needs to move. States across the country have been experimenting with different ways to bring more drivers into the profession. Florida thought they had found a smart one. The bill was called HB 325, and it was part of a broader piece of legislation focused on education and workforce development for inmates. The CDL piece was considered the centerpiece. Here's the key thing to understand. Florida was not starting from zero. The state already runs a Class A CDL program at the Tallahassee Community Release Center, run through Tallahassee State College. That program works with work release inmates. HB 325 was designed to expand on that foundation and bring it inside the fence. The program under HB 325 would have been open to nonviolent inmates with 2 years or less remaining on their sentence. Priority was given to youthful offenders and those closest to release. The curriculum would have covered both Class A and Class B CDLs. Training would take place at state correctional institutions and could be run through colleges, public school districts, or qualified partner organizations. Now here's the part that became the sticking point. For on-road training, an inmate could operate a state-owned vehicle only if they were already appropriately licensed or had completed the CDL program. And the bill required at least one corrections officer to be in the vehicle at all times during any on-road portion. Supporters saw this as a 2-for-1 solution. Train people for a real job before they get out, reduce the chances they come back, and put qualified CDL holders into an industry that is desperate for them. Every lawmaker in Tallahassee, Republican and Democrat, thought it made enough sense to vote yes. Stop for a second and think about that. Not one no vote. Zero. In a state house that can barely agree on what day of the week it is, this bill passed with complete unanimity. When does that ever happen? The governor's veto letter said the program was, quote, unnecessarily burdensome to the Department of Corrections. His argument was that having corrections officers ride along for on-road training would pull staff away from their existing duties and stretch an already taxed system. He also cited what he called, quote, significant public safety concerns by authorizing incarcerated individuals to operate commercial vehicles in public thoroughfares. The governor went on to say that Florida's commitment to workforce development and the trucking industry is real, and that those goals can be achieved through existing programs run by the Department of Corrections and the Department of Transportation, without creating new risks on public roads. That is the stated reasoning. The program already running in Tallahassee, the one with work release inmates getting their Class A CDLs through Tallahassee State College, does involve on-road training. So the distinction DeSantis is drawing is specifically about inmates who are still behind the fence versus those who are already in work release status. Here's a question worth sitting with. If a driver who already has a CDL rides alongside an inmate trainee with a corrections officer also in that cab, is that road any more dangerous than the road you are on right now? Because right now there are undertrained, underexperienced drivers getting their CDLs through programs with far less oversight than what this bill required. What it means for truckers. For drivers in Florida, this changes nothing immediately. The roads are the same. The shortage is the same. What changes is one potential pipeline that will not be built, at least not through this legislation. The industry needed this to work. 60,000 to 80,000 driver vacancies nationally is not something you solve with one program in one state. But it is the kind of program that, if it worked, other states would have watched closely. Florida already had the proof of concept sitting right there in Tallahassee. This bill was the expansion. For carriers hiring in Florida, the driver pool is not getting bigger anytime soon through this route. For independent owner-operators, the math stays the same. High demand, not enough drivers, and a governor who just drew a hard line on where he is willing to look for new ones. The governor did not close the door entirely. He said in his veto letter that workforce development goals can be met through existing channels. What those channels are in practice, what capacity they have, and whether they can move the needle on 60,000 to 80,000 vacancies, that remains to be seen. You cannot run this industry on promises. You run it on drivers, and on miles, and on loads that move. Every person who gets a CDL and stays in a truck is one less vacancy. That is how simple the math is. Florida had a chance to chip away at that number in a way that cost the state very little, and asked the industry to do almost nothing different than what it already does every day. The legislature saw it. The industry saw it. The governor did not. Now the bill is dead, the shortage is real, and the drivers who are out here keeping freight moving are still the ones carrying the weight. If you want the full breakdown on what this means for hiring and rates, hit subscribe and check the link in the description.